A safe alternative, 95% less harmful, just vapor and nothing more. These phrases, like a sweet siren's call, have lured an entire generation into the embrace of a new habit: e-cigarettes, vapes, disposables. They arrived in beautiful packaging with the pleasant scent of mango and mint, and with the promise of liberating us from the tar and carcinogens of the old world. It was the perfect marketing move, a Trojan horse that we gladly wheeled into the gates of our cities, our schools, and our homes. We thought that inside was freedom from tobacco. But what if in reality, what was hidden inside was a new, even more insidious form of addiction? Today, we are breaking open this Trojan horse. We're not going to talk about the dangers of smoking in general. We're going to talk about why the safe alternative for many is turning into a nightmare of chronic illness, sudden lung collapse, and disability. This is the story of how we became the lab rats in a global experiment, the consequences of which are only just beginning to surface. Part 1. The illusion of safety. Smoke versus aerosol. Let's be honest. The main argument from vaping advocates sounds logical. You're not inhaling smoke, and that's true. Smoke is a product of combustion, full of tar, carbon monoxide, and hundreds of proven carcinogens. Instead, you're inhaling an aerosol, a vapor formed by heating a liquid. It seems like a victory. We've removed the fire, so we've removed the harm. But this is where the first and most dangerous misconception lies. An aerosol is not just harmless water vapor. It's a suspension of ultrafine particles that, unlike the larger particles in smoke, are capable of penetrating the deepest and most inaccessible parts of the lungs, the segments that regular cigarette smoke often doesn't reach. Imagine your lungs are a city. Cigarette smoke is heavy artillery, striking the main avenues and major buildings. The damage is obvious and localized. The aerosol from a vape is a squad of invisible saboteurs infiltrating every alleyway, every basement, every apartment, poisoning the city from within across its entire area. This is why we are seeing entirely new diseases, atypical for traditional smokers, illnesses that don't take decades to develop, but manifest in a matter of years or even months. Part 2. The collapse. When a lung just pops. Imagine this. You're a young, healthy person. You've never smoked a cigarette, but a couple of years ago, you got hooked on the safe e-cigarettes. One morning, you wake up with a slight pain in your chest. Probably just pulled a muscle, you think. But by evening, the pain intensifies. You lie down to sleep and hear strange clicking sounds inside, near your heart. This is a real story that is happening to thousands of young people around the world. The diagnosis is spontaneous pneumothorax. In simple terms, a hole has formed in your lung. Air from the lung has begun to escape into the chest cavity, compressing the lung itself and the heart. It collapses like a punctured balloon. Doctors in thoracic surgery departments say they used to see this mainly after trauma, car accidents, knife wounds. Now they have an endless stream of young men and women whose lungs have ruptured for no apparent reason. And when the doctors ask what could have caused it, the answer is almost always the same. Well, I vape. There are few direct studies proving the link yet. We are the study. But doctors on the front lines see the pattern every day. A tall, thin body type and heavy vaping. This has become the unifying factor for a whole generation of patients with ruptured lungs. And if you're lucky, you'll be taken to the hospital in time, where they will, without anesthesia, puncture your chest wall and insert a drainage tube to suck out the air. If you're not lucky, people die from this. And that's not a scare tactic. That's the daily reality for a thoracic surgeon. Part 3. Popcorn lung and EVALI, the new diseases of the 21st century. Pneumothorax is just one of the problems. There's a whole spectrum of new diseases grouped under the acronym EVALI, e-cigarette or vaping product use associated lung injury. This isn't cancer that develops over 20 to 30 years. This is a rapid process. Popcorn lung bronchiolitis obliterans is a condition where the smallest airways in the lungs become inflamed and scarred. It was first discovered in popcorn factory workers who inhaled the flavoring chemical diacetyl, the same diacetyl that gives vape liquid its caramel, cream, and bakery flavors. It's an irreversible condition that slowly turns your lungs into a useless piece of scar tissue. Or there's the rapid onset of pulmonary fibrosis. This is when lung tissue is replaced with connective tissue, like a scar. The lungs lose their elasticity and cease to function. The only cure is a transplant. In the United States, there are already 16-year-olds who have had double lung transplants due to vaping. They received a lifetime disability at an age when life was just supposed to be starting. The problem is that we are dealing with an equation with thousands of variables, hundreds of manufacturers, thousands of flavorings, different device wattages, different heating temperatures. Each combination is a new chemical cocktail that you inhale. No one knows how it will behave in your body, especially in the immature body of a teenager whose respiratory system is still developing. Part 4. The nicotine self-deception, nicotine-free traps, and behavioral addiction. But I vape nicotine-free liquids, someone will say. This is another part of the illusion. First, numerous studies show that even in liquids advertised as nicotine-free, trace amounts of nicotine are often found. The manufacturers are lying. Second, even if we imagine the nicotine content is truly zero, an addiction still forms. It's a behavioral addiction. The ritual itself, the hand-to-mouth motion, the inhale, exhale, the sweet taste, the cloud of vapor. This becomes hardwired in the brain as a coping mechanism for stress, a way to socialize, a pleasant activity to combat boredom. You form a habit that is then incredibly difficult to break. Many vapers notice that they start using their device much more frequently than they would have smoked cigarettes. A cigarette needs to be taken out, lit. It smells unpleasant. You need to wash your hands after. A vape can be used anywhere, even in bed. It's tasty. It doesn't cause immediate revulsion. And soon you're taking a puff every 5 minutes, consuming nicotine or just chemicals non-stop. This is why many who switch to the safe alternative find their addiction has only become stronger. They start using cigarettes, vapes, and heated tobacco systems, becoming dualists or trialists who consume nicotine in 3 different ways. So what's worse, smoke or aerosol? In terms of long-term studied risks like cancer, traditional cigarettes are, without a doubt, still the most deadly product. The evidence base for that was built over 400 years. But that does not make aerosol safe. It just means we are in the early stages of data collection for a new epidemic. We don't know what will happen to the generation that started inhaling propylene glycol, glycerin, and flavorings at age 12. We don't know what diseases we'll see in 15-20 years. A ban? Perhaps it's a solution. But as practice shows, bans only create a black market where the product is even more low quality and dangerous. The only real solution is knowledge. Understanding that a safe alternative to smoking does not exist. There are only different degrees of harm. And the sweet, fragrant vapor that seems so harmless might just be the Trojan horse that brings not peace to your lungs, but war. A war you are at risk of losing. Take care of yourselves and think for yourselves, because in this experiment, the lab rats are you and me.